If you hear somebody tell you some advice or comment on your gameplay in League and you find it to be particularly frustrating or upsetting, that's the advice that you need to listen to the most. It may seem weird for me to make that claim, but consider what makes a critique frustrating. There's three main factors. One is that it's true. If you knew that it wasn't a valid critique, it wouldn't affect you nearly as much. It doesn't matter how many times somebody tells you that you should go tank Teemo, if you don't believe that their claim is valid, then you're not going to be nearly as frustrated by it as if you genuinely believe them. The reason is because that means you accept their advice. You may not want to, but you know that they're right. The second factor is when you've been told many times before to work on this, and then it's to the point that you even tell yourself you know better, but you still do it, or you don't work on it. And the last factor is that you already have worked on it in the past, but you failed and or you relapsed. You may have had progress for a little bit, but then you went back to completely failing on what you were supposed to be working on. This concept isn't even necessarily specific to League. It also goes with IRL things as well, but of course my channel is about League. I'm going to keep it in that context. Now that you have those three factors, I can give an example of advice that I've been given before that I found particularly frustrating. Somebody on my collegiate team a few years ago used to tell me all the time that I was dying in the side lane too much. This was back when I was playing exclusively top lane. Back then, the reason that I found it so frustrating is because he was absolutely right. I was dying way too much in the side lane. It was causing major issues not only in the collegiate games, but also in my own solo queue games. I was telling myself I know better. I've worked on it many, many times, but I kept having issues with it. I kept going back to dying in the side lane over and over. The more energy I put into trying to fix it, the more I got frustrated, and it just became a worse problem. But just because I got frustrated and in the short term it became worse does not mean that I should just give up. Say, oh, whatever, I'm gonna ignore their advice. Because obviously it's not good to die in the side lane. It's still not acceptable. Instead, you just need to figure out why it's happening and work on fixing that. Instead of thinking, at 20 minutes, I'm going to tell myself over and over to stop dying in the side lane, focus on what you should be doing in that 20 minutes. Should you be rotating? Should you be clearing a wave a little bit faster? Slow push a wave? Look for a fight in the river? Work with your teammates to get picks? Something. Look for some kind of opportunities, little triggers that you can use in your mind to think, oh, I should be doing this, instead of just dying in the side lane. What factors am I looking for to continue to push in the side lane? The other example for me is pinging. All the time, I get critiqued for not pinging enough. And even when I coach, I critique people on not pinging enough. It's completely valid. And I hate it because I'm basically being critiqued on not telling somebody else what to do instead of my own gameplay, which is why I find it particularly frustrating. But I still know that the part of giving the information out is completely 100% under my control, so I still need to work on it. Even very recently, I still am working on pinging more. But you'll notice that if you're lacking in a particular area and you put a lot of emphasis on it, in my case pinging, you'll see huge improvements compared to if you go to the advice that you don't find particularly frustrating because it's a lot easier to fix. Minor little things like changing your runes or changing your build instead of the core issue that you know you need to fix. If you haven't been given any advice or you're looking for some more and you play top or jungle, I'm happy to give you my own frustrating advice that you can work on in your own games. Link to my Discord in the description. All my coaching is for free.